Purple triangles. During the dark period of the Second World War, the Nazi regime led by Adolf Hitler triggered a relentless persecution against several groups considered undesirable. Among these groups were the Jehovah's Witnesses, a Christian movement known for its unwavering faith and for its position of political and military neutrality. Even though they were German citizens, thousands of them were arrested, tortured and murdered in concentration camps, marked by the purple triangle, a symbol that represented their religious identity and their firmness before the regime. The persecution. Even before the start of the Second World War, Jehovah's Witnesses were seen with distrust by the Nazi regime. Their religious commitment led them to refuse military service, swear loyalty to the state, and exalt human leaders. For Adolf Hitler, this refusal symbolized a direct affront to the supremacy of the Nazi Party. In 1935, Jehovah's Witnesses were officially banned in Germany. Those who refused to renounce their faith were sent to concentration camps, where they faced forced labor, beatings, and often death. The Kusserows were an example of faith and resilience. Among the many families who suffered under the Nazi regime, the Kusserow family stands out as an example of courage and resilience. The faith of this family led them to resist the Nazi regime in a peaceful but firm way. Several family members were arrested and tortured. One of the children, Wilhelm Kusserow, was shot in 1940 at the age of 20, after refusing to enlist in the German army. 2 years later, in 1942, his younger brother Wolfgang Kusserow was also sentenced to death for also refusing to enlist in the German army. The night before his execution, he wrote to the family reaffirming his devotion to God. Other family members also faced prison and severe persecution, but remained firm in their faith. We will leave in the description of these videos 2 links from the Holocaust Encyclopedia about the experience of these 2 brave and loyal young people to their faith. The Purple Triangle and the Legacy of Resistance. Powered by Dubverse. About 2,500 Jehovah's Witnesses died in these camps, victims of executions, hunger, diseases, and brutality. Despite the adversities, they remained firm, refusing to renounce their faith, even when it meant facing death. The persecution of Jehovah's Witnesses by the Nazi regime evidenced an irrational and inhuman hatred that transcended religious, ethnic, and cultural borders. These people's refusal to compromise their faith and principles was not an act of political rebellion, but a deeply religious commitment, which existed long before the emergence of Nazism. Adolf Hitler's hatred was not limited to a specific group, but reflected a contempt generalized by humanity, suggesting an evil and destructive influence that can manifest in those who abuse power. The Nazi concentration camps were places of mass genocide during the Nazi regime in Germany, especially during World War II. Millions of people were killed, belonging to different target groups. Here is a list of the main Holocaust victims, along with estimates of the number of deaths. 1. Jews. Estimated number of deaths, about 6 million. The Holocaust was a systematic and industrialized genocide, mainly aimed at the Jewish population of Europe. The so-called final solution consisted of the total and immediate annihilation of the Jewish population in the concentration camps, but since the Allied countries that fought against Germany managed to end the war ahead of time, this plan was not extensively concluded. 2. Gypsies. Powered by Dubverse. This genocide is known as the Porazy Chemos or Samudarapan. 3. Soviet war prisoners. Estimated number of deaths, about 3 million. Many were killed by execution, hunger, or brutal conditions in the fields. 4. Non-Jewish Poles. Estimated number of deaths, between 1.8 and 2 million. Powered by Dubverse. 5. People with disabilities. Estimated number of deaths, about 275,000. People with physical and mental disabilities were murdered as part of a racial hygiene policy. 6. Jehovah's Witnesses. Estimated number of deaths, between 2,500 and 5,000. Persecuted for refusing to provide military service and swearing allegiance to the Nazi regime. 7. Homosexual men. Estimated number of deaths, between 5,000 and 15,000. Many were sent to concentration camps where they suffered severe abuse and murder. 8. Intellectuals and political dissidents, communists, socialists, anarchists, and others. Estimated number of deaths, tens of thousands. Includes people who resisted the Nazi regime, or were considered political enemies. 9. Other ethnic and religious groups persecuted. Groups such as Slavs, Afro-Germans and certain minority Christian groups were also targets, but the numbers are more difficult to estimate. The exact numbers vary depending on the sources and methods of estimation, but the tragedy of the Holocaust remains one of the biggest crimes against humanity in history. The Jehovah's Witnesses appeared to constitute the only group that was persecuted for not accepting to serve Hitler's war interests, as well as for not accepting to make the well-known salutation to Hitler. Powered by Dub Verse. The Bible says in the book of Matthew in chapter 4 verses 8 to 10 says that the devil offered all the kingdoms of the world to Jesus, but that Jesus refused, saying that true worship only fit God, which would not mean that a person with the past of Adolf Hitler could reject such an offer. Thus, as already mentioned, the purple triangle in the clothes of prisoners of Jehovah's Witnesses in the fields of forced labor became a visible symbol of resistance, perseverance, courage and faith. Thank you for watching to the end. We will leave for you in the description of this video the link of the second part of this documentary about the purple triangles. If you found it interesting, leave your like, share it with others and be sure to subscribe to be informed about more interesting videos. Until the next video. Bye. Light over knowledge.